Well, welcome. Welcome to class as we continue to learn about discipleship and the stewardship of our wealth, this time part 2. We have a lot to go through today, so I want to get started right away as we move through this material. But before we begin, is anybody out there? I know it sounds like a silly question, but sometimes I wonder that when I look at the screen or the lens, and I wonder if anybody's there. I know you're there. Thanks for being here. But here's what I want you to do. If your moms and dads can join us, please encourage them to do that. In normal time, they would be here with you because we kind of want to do this together. I think it's really important for moms and dads to be a part of talking with you about how we handle money and our stewardship of our wealth. And they're great witnesses and they're great teachers. So if they can be with you while you're watching this, that's best. If they can't, please encourage them to watch the video another time so that they're kind of up to speed with what we're talking about. Also, make sure you print off the downloads that are on the website with the video. You should have let me show you, you should have a worksheet here. And on the back of the worksheet is a homework assignment. You want to have that handy. And then you don't really need this handy, but I provided it for you. I have a sheet of resources, and on one side is a really interesting article that I think is worth reading. It's really worth reading. What the article says is don't be greedy, because studies find that people who are greedy end up with less. I mean, go figure. People who are greedy, because they're so greedy, they make foolish choices, and they end up losing. So read the article. It's really kind of interesting. And then on the back are a number of resources, websites, and so on that I'm going to refer to in the video. So you want to have that handy. Not so much during the video, but make sure you have it afterwards so you can check some things out. Okay? And then remember, we're doing a Zoom session. We have our class on February 3rd at 6 o'clock. First Wednesday of the month, as we always do. 6 o'clock on Zoom. Use the link that you've been using, but I'll send that out with my reminder as well. But first, before we get to our class material, just some quick comments about what's coming up. What's next in this crazy year? Well, season of Lent. Some things do not change. Some things change. Some don't. One of them that doesn't is we've got Lent coming up. February 17th, Ash Wednesday, and then the Wednesdays after, there will be a video each week. Those count. If you're going to do worship notes, those count, okay? But also, think about Ash Wednesday. We're going to try to do something a little different. We're going to do a drive-through Ashes and Communion and a little treat in the morning of Ash Wednesday and around the 5 to 6:30, somewhere in that range. Check out the newsletter. The times, the specifics are on the newsletter for something different, something very different. And then when we get to the end of the season of Lent, of course, we have Good Friday. Starting to think about how we're going to do Good Friday and Easter morning. Please don't forget those. Those are the most important dates for us as faithful Christians. Even more important than Christmas is to know that Jesus cares so much that Jesus is willing to go to the cross and take upon himself all the crap that's part of our lives. Jesus takes that on himself, and in Easter, he defeats the powers of death. Now, after Easter, we go into the final stretch. And not really sure how that's going to work out. You know, in normal time, we'd be making banners during Lent, and I just don't know if we're going to be able to do that this year. Last year, we got banners sort of done. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. Haven't thought that far ahead. We will keep you posted on that. I do know that this is not going to happen. We are not going to have confirmation in church. I don't think we'll be back into the church building until September. I know this sounds like a long time, but it depends on the virus, and it depends on the vaccine, how quickly it gets rolled out, and how quickly people use it, make use of it, and the disease rates drop. But I'm just not counting on it till September. There's some people saying it might not be till the end of the year. I'm hoping September. So what are we going to do? How can we do it? How can we do confirmation? And when? I don't know. What do you think? Well, we've been thinking, we do have the Lion's Shelter, and we have it reserved for 2 Sundays a month for June, July, and August. And we're wondering, maybe June 13, June 27, or July 11th, and I've asked your parents to let me know what works best for you. So make sure they get back to me and let me know what date might be the best date to do. I will tell you that last year we did confirmation in the Lion Shelter in small groups, and I had several parents email me afterwards and said, that was so awesome. It was just so awesome. So however we do it, we will do it safely. We will do it distanced. We'll spread out. A lot of space in the Lion Shelter to spread out. So we'll figure out a way to make it work, okay? But for now, I need to know from moms and dads which of these dates would work best so we can begin to set that up, because we really want to make a date that'll work for everybody. But one thing is for sure, stay on top of your worship notes. Okay, now let's get back to the show. And I mentioned already this resource sheet, okay? Remember the resource sheet? Read that, think a little bit, ponder a little bit about what it means to be greedy, what it means to maybe not be so greedy. That's an important part of it's really an important part of how we handle our finances. And, as this guy's thinking about it, you can start thinking a little bit about it too, okay? So, remember what I said last time. Jesus talks a lot about money. I mean, a lot of times we think, why are we talking about money in the church? Because Jesus talks a lot about money. Not because we want money, not because the church wants your money, but because Jesus talks about money, because how we handle money is really an important part of being a faithful disciple of Jesus. But if you don't believe me, remember I said this last month, Jesus talked more about money than he did heaven and hell combined. Jesus talked about money more than anything else except the kingdom of God. 11 of the 39 parables involve money in some fashion. And 1 out of every 7 verses in the Gospel of Luke connect with money in some way. So let me give you some examples. This is from Matthew 25. In Matthew 25, 1 to 13, Jesus tells a parable. And he tells a parable about bridesmaids waiting for the bridal parade, the bridal procession. And 5 of them brought extra oil for their lamps, and 5 of them didn't. While the bridal procession was delayed, they took a nap. When they woke up and trimmed their lamps, the ones who had enough oil were in good shape. The ones who didn't weren't. And so they had to go off and to buy more oil. And in the process, they missed the wedding procession and didn't get to go to the banquet. Okay? Doesn't sound like a big deal to us, but in that culture, that was huge. The point was sort of like, was his name Russell? Be prepared. Being prepared. Okay, that's and not just being prepared to make sure you have oil in your lamps, being prepared for what God calls you to do and to be as a disciple of Jesus. But that parable connects with money a little bit. This is one of my favorites. This is from Luke 12, 13 to 21, the parable of the rich fool. And in this parable, there's a guy who owns a farm. The farm does really, really well. I mean, it's just a bumper crop. And he says, what am I going to do with all my crops? Because now I've got so much. And he says, I know what I'll do. I'll build a bigger barn. I'll pack that barn with all my crops, because crops represented wealth. They didn't have money per se, but wealth. He said, you know what? Then I will sit back and relax and say, I have it all. But in the parable, God comes to him that evening and says, tonight, your life is demanded of you. You're going to die. And then who gets all that money? I mean, you saved up all that money, you stocked it in the barn, and then you said, I am fine because I have money. Because I have money, I'm okay. Except when you die. Then what? Money doesn't do everything. And then there's the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man's up here. Lazarus is this poor guy. He is so bad off, the dogs lick the sores on his legs. Oh, ick. And the poor man just wants a little bit of help, but the rich man doesn't even notice him, ignores him completely. And then they both die. They both die. And the rich man ends up in the fires of hell. What good did his money do him? The poor man ends up in heaven. It's not to say that rich people go to hell and poor people go to heaven. The point is, the money that the rich man so cared about didn't help him a bit. Okay. So just some examples of where money shows up in some of the stuff that Jesus said. So just a quick question. I know you can't answer me, but how did it go when you got together with moms and dads and figured out a budget? How did it go for you? I hope you're able to maybe learn a little bit about budgeting. We're going to talk more about it today. I hope you had a chance to just talk about money with mom and dad. That's always a good thing. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper here, and we'll start with budgeting. Well, we'll start with doing a budget. A budget is a plan for our dollars. A budget is a way that we maximize what's important to us. Remember we talked about that last week. Or last month. What are our priorities? And a budget helps us say, these are the things that are most important, that I really need to make sure that I take care of, okay? So one approach to doing a budget is what's called 10-10-80, okay? And here's what the 10-10-80 rule does. It says you've got 80% of your money can be budgeted for one thing or one area, and then 10% and 10%. Now there is another one. I want to show you another one, then we'll go back to the 10-10-80. Another one says you spend 50% of your money on the things you absolutely positively have to have, okay? You spend 30% on the fun things in life, going to a movie, getting an extra pizza, whatever. And then you spend 20% in savings. Okay, so then just kind of keep that 50, 30, 20. We're going to talk about the 10-10-80 a little bit more, but this is another way to do it, 50, 30, and 20. Well, however you choose to do a budget, the most important thing is you stick to it, okay? You stick to your budget. You stick to it to make so that it'll work, because if you start getting lazy, it doesn't work as well. Okay, I'm dropping my pages here, sorry. So, we'll do the 10-10-80, okay? So what you do in 10-10-80 is you take the first 10%, you give to God, okay? Right off the top. Take 10% right off the top. And you know what? If you start that now, it's easy. It's hard later on, but it's easy if you start it right now. Start right now. If you get a little odd jobs or something, you take 10%, you say, I'm going to give this to God. We'll talk more about what that means in a few minutes. You put 10% into savings. Start now. The money you save now is not a whole lot of money because you probably don't have a lot, but you get in the habit. You get in the habit of saving, and then you have 80% to live on. Okay? So let's start with the first 10%. Why would you give 10% to God? Well, in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus says, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. In other words, be cheap, you'll probably get cheap. Be generous. You'll experience generosity. The Bible uses a concept of a tithe, which is to say 10%. We'll come back to whether that works or not. Just a quick little cartoon that I found. These two guys are walking out of church, and they're in their underwear. And he says, that was the best sermon on giving I've ever heard. I mean, they were so moved by giving, they gave it all, and now they're in their underwear. Well, I don't know that God quite wants you to be in your underwear. And it's not simply about, you got to give 10%. God doesn't say, well, fork over 10% and move on in life. What it is about is it's about growing in our giving, okay? Growing in our giving and becoming more trusting in God's gifts along the way, that we become more trusting, okay? Because otherwise what happens is I start to trust in my money. Remember like that rich fool in the parable from Luke? I start to trust in my money and I say, my money will take care of me. My money will protect me. My money will keep me secure. But what happens when I die? Or what happens if I lose my money? What if all of a sudden the money's gone? Then what do I do? So we learn to trust in God, okay? And as we give, that's what happens. So why? Okay. If you giving to God in some fashion, I'll talk more about that in a couple more minutes. You get to be a part of what God is doing in the world. I mean, think about the privilege of contributing, sharing some of your money with, say, the warming center. Does God care about homeless people? Yeah, he does. And if you contribute money, you share money with the homeless shelter, the warming center rather, you're part of God's work. I mean, that's awesome. But you also share because God blessed you first. Remember, I talked about that a little bit last week at the beginning, that everything we have is God's gift to us, because every moment of life that I have is a gift to me. So God has gifted me with everything. I get to share that. And let's face it, you don't want to be Scrooge. I mean, look, Scrooge, there's a reason why Scrooge is Scrooge, okay? Do you want to be Scrooge? Is that what you want to be? Am I right? Tell me if I'm not right. The happiest, and if you haven't experienced this, ask moms and dads or other adults. The happiest people you know are the people who would give you the shirt off their back. The happiest people are generous people. Being generous is kind of the foundation of happiness. Being Scrooge ain't, okay? Because givers are happy people. Givers learn the joy of sharing, of making a difference. They learn the joy of responding to what God has done in their lives. They're not wrapped up in the getting. Instead, they can enjoy living as they share. And if you don't believe me, there's an interesting book. It's on your resource page, written by a guy named Ron Lever, who's the personal finance columnist for the New York Times. And he talks about the opposite of spoiled, that how important it is to raise up kids, another generation, who are grounded, generous, and smart about money. You need to be smart about money, but you also need to be generous. And that is what makes a big difference. Studies show that people who are into stuff and materials, I want more, gimme, 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 they have a higher level of depression and anxiety. People who want are more likely to be depressed and anxious, and they suffer more ills, like backaches and drug use, go figure, Studies also show that they have a higher valuing of things rather than people, okay? So being a giver, being generous, might even be important to your physical health. But back to tithing, okay? So what if you really can't give 10%? I mean, look, I know some people are really strapped and stretched, and it's hard. What if you can't start growing in your sharing? Kind of like exercise, okay? Kind of like exercise. I mean, look, if I tried to run a marathon, seriously, I could probably run from the church to the lion shelter. I might make it back. I can't run a marathon. But what I can do is I can run to the lion shelter. Every day I could run to the lion shelter. And maybe after a week I could run to the lion shelter and back. And maybe after a month I could run to the lion shelter to the elementary school and back. And maybe after a month and a half I could do the lion shelter to the elementary school, to high school, and around the block and back. I can grow, I can get better, and I can get better. So if you can't afford 10%, if you say, I can't give 10% to God, I can't give 10% to things that are in need, start small and work your way up, okay? And remember that this is really about being a disciple. It's not just giving the money. Don't just write the check or drop the money in the offering plate and say, I'm done, okay? It's about looking around the world and saying, what do I see happening in the world? What's going on in the world? And are there things that need to be changed? And is God calling me to be the one who makes the difference? And how has God made it possible? My daughter, for example, has always asked. I drive her to school when she was still at Salem High School. And on a cold winter morning, a lot of times she'd say, so what are homeless people doing today? That was what mattered to her. And actually what she's doing right now that she's out of school and she's making a little bit of money, she gives money to St. Jude's, the hospital out of St. Louis, because she cares about kids who have cancer and kids who are hurting. That matters to her. And that's going to be part of your homework assignment when we get there. Okay? So we want to be generous and we want to give to God. But and I think the church is a great place to share money because we do a lot of things for people, a lot of things for hungry people, for hurting people, for people who are anxious and uncertain and depressed and so on. We do a lot of ministry, but it's not about the building. So when you give money to church, this is what we picture. Okay, we picture the building, say I'm going to give money to the church, but really it's about making a difference, like Sugar Creek and Feed Our Children. And this was a youth retreat, servant mission trip that we took up to Minneapolis. And we sorted diapers. We sorted boxes of diapers. I worked there with a couple of the girls. We spent an afternoon sorting, getting that all organized for a homeless shelter. Or learning. Mr. Corey up here doing confirmation. That's actually an old picture in the old classroom. But doing confirmation class, or collecting food for the food pantry. Okay, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about keeping a building in shape. We're talking about doing things that make a difference in people's lives. Okay, like what? You want a list? I made this list up a couple years ago for something else, and I like the list so much I put it in the present. You ready for this? Things like supporting the work of the Synod and the ELCA and seminaries and church colleges and sugar creeks, supporting missionaries, hospital chaplains, especially these days when I as a pastor can't go to Gunderson. The hospital chaplains there, they're able to do God's work, and we support them. Prison ministries, military chaplains, the World Hunger Appeal, Lutheran Social Services, the Community Assistance Fund, the Food Pantry, Summer Lunch, Nursing Home Services. We do Bible studies at Salem Terrace. Can't do it now, but we do send a DVD of our worship service there for them. Cards for shut-ins, home communion ministry, the Norwegian dinner, the corn roast, worship, the SOS band, school kids, choir, handbell choirs, confirmation instruction, Sunday school classes, the Sunday school choir. And I'm not done yet. Bible study, the women's circles, a men's Bible study, breakfast club, after school, mission trip, peer ministry, endowment fund, funeral ministry, weddings, baptism, quilting group, prayer shawls, prayer chain, guitar class, financial priest university, frolic, owls, and senior connection. Plus all the stuff we do around the world because we're connected to others through the Synod and through the ELCA. That's a lot of stuff that we do. And so, like I said, it's not about this. It's about this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Connecting with people around the world. Okay, so now I got a worksheet alert. You might have your worksheet handy, because this is getting to a worksheet assignment coming up. I want you to think a little bit. Ponder. Just think a little bit, and it's going to relate to your worksheet then. Oops. Oh dear, I'm sorry. I've got to get that fixed. Hang on a moment. Okay, I got it fixed. So think about a little bit, and that's on your worksheet, about the things in the world that need to happen, that need to change, and how you can make a difference, and how's God enabling you to make a difference. So that's the first 10%. That's what it means to give to God. It doesn't mean to give to the church, though the church is a great place. It means to look around and say, how can I make a difference in the world, and how can I be generous in order to do that? Okay, so now we also want to save. Remember we said 10, 10, 80, 10% for giving to God, 10% for saving. Well, why save 10%? Okay, here's why you want to save 10%. Figure a family that makes $60,000, okay? Their average retirement fund in our country right now is somewhere around $90,000. It goes up and down a little bit, but it's somewhere around $90,000. The average family has a household debt of $120,000. That includes their house mortgage. It might be a little higher because our house prices are more expensive in West Salem, but on average, those are the numbers. Let's assume that mom and dad, okay, the adults are 40 years of age. They've got 27 years to retirement, and then they're going to live for 27 years in retirement. So they're going to live till they're 87, okay? If all of this stays constant, if they don't put any more money into their savings, and if they don't whittle down their debt, here's what's going to happen. In retirement, they're going to have $2,500 in Social Security, roughly in today's dollars. They're going to have $993 from their retirement savings. That gives them $34.43. Oops, I got a little glitch. $34.43 per month, $3,400 a month to live on. That's about $41,000 a year. Okay? But you still have to pay off the debt. You still got to do that at some point. And even if it's all mortgage, which is the cheapest debt, that's going to be about $655 a month. That leaves them with $27.88 to live on per month, or $33,000 a year. Now, you just finished doing a budget for $40,000. How did that go? Think about taking that $40,000 budget and then saying, oh, there are two of us. That means we have twice as much food to buy, twice as much clothing. Some things aren't twice as much. You know, the telephone bill isn't twice as much, unless you have two cell phones. So was it easy to come up with a $40,000 budget? What if you only have $33,000 to use? The point is, in general, people need to save more and they need to reduce their debt load. The average retirement fund is $91,000. That's got to go up. The average family household debt of $120,000, that's got to drop. Save more and reduce debt now. But what about income? I mean, couldn't I just get more money? Well, you could work another job, work 60 or 80 hours a week, I suppose. But of course, I like this slide. Everything is the same. Everything is easier said than done. Everything is easier said than done, except for talking. That's about the same. We can talk all we want about it, but getting more money, what's that going to do? Well, making more money will not solve your problems. They may only exacerbate them. If you can't handle $100, what makes you think you can handle more money? I mean, if you haven't learned to handle $100, how would you handle 1,000 or 10,000? Moreover, a lot of people think, well, if I'm going to do the lottery, I won't go into it now, but the lottery is a losing proposition. A lottery is designed to be losing. Yes, some people make out big, but everybody else makes out nothing. They lose in order for one or two people to make out big. It doesn't make sense. But let's play with this for a moment. I'm going to play the lottery, I'm going to win it big, and then I'll be okay, right? Well, more than 80% of people who win large lottery prizes declare bankruptcy within 5 years. Think about that. People who win large lottery prizes, 80% of them go bankrupt. They got more money. What did it do for them? This is from Canada, so the spelling's a little different. It's a couple of years ago. But this woman, a 10 million lottery jackpot winner, now lives paycheck to paycheck. Okay? 9 years after cashing her winner's check, Hamilton lottery winner Sharon Tirabassi is catching the bus to her part-time job so she can support her kids and pay the rent. Right? And then this one's a little hard to read, but this is from England. This woman said a 1.8 million pound, that would be worth somewhere around $3 million, winner, 1.8 million lottery win wrecked my life. And this is from the New York Post from about 3-4 years ago. Here's the title, My Life Sucks Since Winning the Lottery. She goes on, she says she won $1.25 million. She was too young to cope with the sudden flood of wealth. At times it feels like winning the lottery has ruined my life. I thought it'd make it 10 times better. It made it 10 times worse. I wish I had no money most days. I say to myself, my life would be so much easier if I hadn't won. She's sick of shopping, misses hustling for a paycheck, and has struggled to find a boyfriend who isn't using her for her money. The lavish lifestyle has made her feel empty. I mean, you say, wow, you can have everything you want. But she said, yeah, but I feel so empty. People look at me and say, I wish I had her lifestyle, I wish I had her money, but they don't realize the extent of my stress. She pondered, what is my purpose in life? The point is that the lottery isn't the ticket, no pun intended. And the research backs this up. According to a study at the University of Illinois, there's a break-even point right around $50,000 where money stops making us happier. Okay? That is to say, just about every dollar you make up to $50,000 makes you a little happier, according to this study. But after $50,000, whether you have $50,000 or $51,000 or $150,000 or $550,000 or $51 million a year, you aren't any happier. You have more stuff, but you're not happier. Okay? Wanting more money doesn't solve our problems and it doesn't make us happier. So learn to use what you have wisely. And that includes starting to save now. So where should you save your money? Short-term savings like banks and CDs, long-term investments like mutual funds, whatever you do, make sure it's safe, make sure you do your homework first, and understand that Uncle Joe doesn't know everything. Find someone who can give you good, solid, and reliable advice and who isn't taking you for the money. And if you're looking for a unique idea, and this is especially for moms and dads, check out the Mission Investment Fund of the ELCA. So the Mission Investment Fund, here's the website, www.mif.elca.org. It's on the resource sheet. The Mission Investment Fund is kind of like a bank. It pays better interest rates than most banks. It is not insured. You need to understand that. It's not insured. What the money goes to build churches. The Mission Investment Fund and its predecessor organizations have been around for about 125 years. Never has anyone defaulted. Never. I have money in our local banks. I also have some money in the Mission Investment Fund. The Mission Investment Fund pays better interest. A little bit, not a lot, nobody pays a lot these days, but it's a place to look at. To look at putting money away in a unique way and to know that your money is helping to build churches. Win-win. You get a little bit better payoff, churches get built, good stuff. Think about that, take a peek at that. It's worth looking at. So if we're going to save the money, why are we saving it? I mean, okay, so we save money, why? Well, one is a financial emergency. You lost your job, something happens, the house burns down and the insurance doesn't cover everything, some medical emergency, right? Retirement, of course, I don't know that you want to look like this guy someday, but maybe you will. Retirement, you want to save for retirement. But, oh, come on now, really? How old are you guys, like 15? Do you really think you need to save for retirement? No. But you will in about 10 years. Let me show you something. Let me show you the cost of waiting, okay? Let's imagine you're 22 years old, and you're going to put away $25 a month, okay? You're going to do that for 45 years, and there's an average 5% growth in whatever you invest in. You will have, after 45 years, you'll have $50,000. 25 bucks a month gives you $50,000. But what if I want to wait 5 years? I want 25 bucks a month. I want to have an extra pizza or two because I'm young and I like to have some fun. So I'm going to wait I'll wait till I'm 27. Okay? And if I don't spend the 25 a month for 5 years, it'll be $1,500. $25 a month is $1,500 over 5 years. You will have to pay a little bit more in taxes because if you save the money in a retirement fund, you can usually deduct that from your taxes. So you're really going to save $1,200 by waiting, okay? And at the end of, when you retire someday, you'll have $38,000. You will not have $50,000. You will only have $38,000. In other words, you'll save $1,200 now, but it will cost you $12,000 when you retire. That's the cost of waiting. Waiting 5 years to save 25 bucks a month, I'll wait till I'm a little older, will cost you someday. And you know what? I'm getting to that point. I'm getting closer to retirement. I'm starting to look and say, boy, I'm really glad I saved that money when I was 22, 24, 26, 27, 28, because that's the money that will be available to me when I retire so I can be a little bit more comfortable in my retirement. I know that's a long ways away for you, but you gotta start thinking about that. And you can see what a difference that makes. I mean, seriously, 25 bucks a month, is that really gonna make a difference? It will someday. By the way, and this is on your resource sheet, there's a website where you can calculate that. So here's the website. It's from a company called Asante Wealth Management. This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that, but you put in your initial savings. I put 0. $300 every year you want to save. You're going to let it grow for 45 years. If you delay it for 5, that's what we were just talking about, your rate of return at 5%, that's what we talked about. Here are the values. $50,000 if you start saving right now, $38,000 if you wait 5 years. That's what it's going to cost you, $12,000. So you can go to this website and you can kind of play with the numbers. What would happen if you put $50 a year away? So that's a great place to get some, and that's on your resource sheet, so you can look that up. Okay, so as you think about that, you think about retirement, another really good source is, I love this, it's www.feedthepig.org, and that is on your resource sheet as well. Feed the pig, feed the pig, feed the piggy bank, feed the pig, okay? Actually, that website has been rechanged to 360financialliteracy.org, but if you do the Feed the Pig, it'll take you to this one. I tried it yesterday, and it takes you right to 360 Financial Literacy, a place to learn more about taking care of your money. You can also look at another one. I like this one too. Budgets are sexy, because people don't like budgets. Budgets, they don't wow people. They're kind of boring. So budgetsaresexy.com is another website with some really good financial resources for you, or maybe for mom and dad. Okay. Another worksheet alert. So pay attention to your worksheet as we go into the next things. What else are you saving for? You save for retirement. You save for a medical emergency. Maybe you save for the day that, you're in a car accident and you have to get a new car. If you're in a car accident and the insurance company, they'll pay you the value of the car. That might not be enough to replace the car. You might need more money. What else would you save for? Maybe a vacation trip, maybe college. So think about your life. Think about your life, where you are in life. What are some things that you'd say, I need to start saving for that, okay? So think about that. Okay, what about the rest of your spending? Well, make a budget. Even a rough budget is better than no budget, okay? A budget begins with the actual amount of money I've got, not with, I'm gonna have a $100,000 job. You don't have that yet, do you? Don't make a budget based on a $100,000 job. How much do you have? Write it down. Then you move on to your expenses. What expenses do I have to make? What are my priorities, okay? What are the things I gotta have? Like food, housing, clothing. You're gonna have to pay taxes. You get how many of you did that on your budget? When you did your budget for $40,000, remember I had you do that for homework? How many of you said, I'm gonna have to pay some taxes on this? You won't have $40,000 to spend because you'll have some income taxes. Transportation, medical care, debt repayment. Oops, I dropped my sheet, sorry. Debt repayment. You've got a whole bunch of expenses. And here's the thing that's really hard, that you really got to work on. What you got to work on is to work hard to keep the wants out of the needs, okay? Don't assume that something you want is something you need. Do you really need the newest iPhone whatever? I mean, I've seen these ads, and this dad and his daughter walk in the store, and she tells him how great the new iPhone is because it's 5G, and he says, we'll get two. And I look up the price, they're $1,200 a piece. Seriously? I mean, let's just get two. If you are making $100,000, maybe you can do that. I can't, or I won't. I suppose I could, but I won't. I just won't do that. It's not a need, it's a want for me. But you really have to ask that question. What's a want, and what do I want to have, and what do I need? Because your needs are your priorities. Maybe Grandpa's car works okay for a while instead of going out and getting something new. Maybe you're okay with that. And think about that, because again, it's easy to say, I really need something, but you really have to ask, what do I really need? I really need to make sure I have heat in my apartment or my house. I need to make sure I need to have food on the table. So think about what the needs are and the wants. And again, we get that list: food, housing, clothing, taxes, transportation, medical care, debt repayment. Those are probably a good starting point for what are your needs. But don't forget the 10 and the 10. So if you're going to spend 80% of your money on the things you need, right, to live on. Don't forget, in the midst of this, savings and sharing. Don't say, well, I've got a want, I can take that out of my sharing money, or I've got a want, I just won't save money. Make these a priority. And remember, there was that other budget plan that I had at the beginning where you did 50% for your essentials, 30% for your fun lifestyle things, and 20% for savings. You might want to save 20%. The thing I don't like about that other budget plan, there's no sharing. There's no place for sharing. And I remember, you don't want to be Scrooge. So think about how you can work sharing into your plan. So if you're going to not forget 10-10 or the 20 for savings, add in your savings. Don't forget to be a sharer. Don't forget to be generous. Okay. Now add in some extras. What are your goals? Remember, what are your goals? What are the things you want to do in life? And maybe there's some things you want to have some fun. Maybe you want to take a trip. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe you want to get that new car, whatever. Or entertainment, the new toys, the new car, the new other things. You can add those in, but after you put in your priorities. And don't forget the sharing and the saving. So you come up with a budget. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, but this is an example of a budget. $40,000 in income after taxes, rent, utilities, food, clothing, car payment, gasoline, car repair, insurance, cable, cell phone, entertainment, miscellaneous, and some money for savings and some money for sharing. Don't forget all those things. And so whether you're doing the 10-10-80 or you're doing the 50-30-20, don't forget about all those things that go into that. And so think hard. What are my essentials? What do I gotta have? What do I need? What are my lifestyle expenses? So we're kind of going back to this one here. Okay, so your essentials, your lifestyle, your savings. That's another way to do it. Remember what I said, another way to do it. And don't forget to share. But can't I just go out and enjoy my wants now? Why do I have to wait? I want it now. I want it now. I want it, and I want it now. A few days, I don't want, but I want it now. I want it now. Our culture, our society tries to get you to rethink and believe you gotta have it now, or you won't be happy. Usually that means debt. And credit card is the worst kind of debt to have. Okay. Here's the problem with credit cards. Let's say you buy a $100 item on a credit card. There's an 18% interest. What if you never made a payment? What if you decide, I just want to make the payment, I'll just add the interest. Let the 18%, I can live with that, right? So $100, 18% is $18. Let's say I wait 45 years. Wait till I retire. You're 22 years old, you buy that $100 item, and you say, I'll wait till I retire. $18 of interest every year, 45 years is $810. When you're 67, you pay $910. You bought something for $100. In 45 years, it'll cost you $910. Who cares, right? Isn't that great? That's a great idea. Except it doesn't work like that. Interest is compounded, which means you pay interest on the interest on the interest on the interest on the interest for 45 years. You pay interest on the interest on the interest, which means after 1 year, you owe $120, because usually the interest is compounded monthly, not yearly. And after 5 years, you pay $244. And after 25 years, you're going to owe $8,710. Remember, this was a $100 purchase. And after 45 years, you're going to owe $310,367. Now, it doesn't actually work that way because you normally, credit card companies won't let you go that long, you know. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes, they'll throw on late fees. But that's just a simple illustration. Let me give you a real example. I have impeccable credit. I really work hard to keep my credit good. My rate is 15%. Okay? Recently, I had a balance of $35,8866. I always pay it off every month. I do not pay interest because I pay it off. I use my credit card just to avoid cash. But if I wanted to pay the minimum payment of $143.55, it would eventually decrease to $15. Okay? So if you make only the minimum payment each period, you will pay more in interest and it will take longer for you to pay off your balance. So if you make no additional charges using this card, and each month you pay only the minimum payment of $143.55, you know how long it'll take me to pay off that $3,500? It will take me 10 years and 4 months. Take me 10 years and 4 months. I started with $35.88. I'll end up paying $5,600. I'll pay $2,100 extra dollars for my credit card bill. Oh, but remember, there are late fees. Remember I said that? And late fees can be as much as $35. So if you go back to this illustration back here, you got to add $35 plus compounding interest every month on this. You're probably looking at $500,000. They wouldn't let you go that long. They would sue you long before they take you to court. But you'd be looking at $500,000 if you never paid it off. That's why credit cards are so nasty if you don't take care of them. Okay. For the record, I don't do that. I pay mine off every month. But, you know, and I also realize sometimes we can't. I mean, sometimes, you know, remember those medical emergencies or other emergencies? But that's why you save money. You save money so that if something does happen, you're not stuck with a credit card bill that you simply cannot pay. And you're not stuck getting into trouble. But let's think a little bit bigger. In 2007, the average American had $15,000 in credit card debt. Could that be you? Let's imagine that after 4 long years of college, coming after 4 really long years of high school, I want a break. I want a break. So I decide to buy a Wharfdale audio speaker set at $2,500, a Marantz home theater receiver at $1,500, and a Samsung 65-inch 4K smart LED TV for $1,500. Did this a couple years ago. You probably get an 80-inch by now or 75-inch. The total home theater package of $5,500. I earned it. I deserve that. But, you know, I got a new job, so I need new clothing. I can't wear the grubbies I wore to college or high school. So maybe I'll spend $2,000 on a new wardrobe. And then, you know, a couple of nice accessories. Maybe a new iPad or a Rolex would be really good. But, you know, I need a break. I'm heading to Cancun. I'm heading to Cancun. It's my graduation gift to myself. I'm going to go to the LeBlanc Spa Resort in Cancun. Airfare runs about $5,000, plus meals, maybe a few extra treats. Maybe I'll go scuba diving or something. And maybe $2,000 for meals and extra treats. A whole week in the sun of about $7,000, but remember, I earned it. So we have the home theater system, the wardrobe, the accessories, the trip to Cancun, $15,000. So if in 2016 the average American has $16,000 in debt, you know, we're not far behind. I've got $15,000 on my credit card. And you can do that because credit card companies will give you a good amount of money. They want that. You got to pay it off sometime. So at 18% interest, which is reasonably decent, if I make a minimum payment of $450 a month, and that minimum payment will gradually drop to $75 last month. I'll pay that off in 22 years. My home theater system, my wardrobe, my toys, and my trip, it will take 22 years to pay that off. And I will have paid an extra almost $15,000. Extra. Plus the original 15. Now there are some alternatives. One alternative is I could go bankrupt. Woohoo, go bankrupt. You know, go bankrupt. You know, just go bankrupt, wipe it all away. 7 years is gone, except for one thing. Your interest rates go up. Even your auto insurance will cost more if you go bankrupt, because auto insurance companies say there's a correlation between your financial capability, how you handle money, and accident rates. So if you have a bankruptcy on your record, or even just bad credit, your auto insurance is going to be more expensive. Everything else goes up. So think about it. What would be worth the debt? And what would be a mistake? You know, when you think about taking on that kind of debt on a credit card, what would be worth it and what would not be worth it? Okay, so moving forward, I mentioned this last month. Please check out, especially moms and dads, and when you get older, check out your credit report. Now, just to give you an example, I can check my credit report. I do that regularly. I told you I did that last month. It's difficult to check a child's credit report. There is a way to do it. You have to contact each of the companies directly. But you can get started on this website right here, and that also is on your resource sheet. I also know that my daughter is now 19, Rebecca's 19. I've checked her credit, and it comes up saying we have no information. That's good. That's good news, because I know she doesn't have any credit cards, doesn't have any loans, and it means nobody out there stole her identity and opened up an account using her name and her social security number somehow, if they were able to steal that. So that's good news. I think if you try to do it for someone under 18, it'll come up that you can't do it, but you can go directly to the company. There is a way to do it. I just don't know how that works. You have to check that out. But it's something to check on to make sure that your credit report is clear and clean. A couple other things to share with you. If you are having issues, and I'm saying this especially to moms and dads who are watching, if you're having financial issues, one of the things to think about is something like Financial Peace University. There are other types of things out there. We have done Financial Peace University here at Our Savior's. It works. It is a little draconian. It needs to be. But you know, if you're having trouble, that's something to look at. Let me also tell you this. We don't have a Financial Peace University class set up right now. If you think you need that, speak to me, contact me. We will work on that. The other thing I will tell you is Financial Peace University does cost $100, roughly $100 to do it for the materials. We have some scholarships available. So if you or someone you know is in real dire straits, Financial Peace University won't pay their bills for them. What it will do is it will help them begin to get control of their financial house, so to speak, so that they can get it back to where it needs to be and then keep it there. It's very much worth doing. Okay, a few final thoughts to share with you as we come to the close. Everything you have is something entrusted to you by God. Everything you have, God has given to you, including your money. And so how you use your money really is a spiritual issue. I mean, it really is. And how you share it in order to make a difference in the world is a way for you to live out your faith. But also how you spend your money, okay? So, for example, in some retirement funds, in my retirement fund that the church has, I can choose to put money into social investments, which Pastor Gene and I do. In other words, we invest some of our, in fact, most of our, not just some, most of our retirement money is invested in funds that will seek to make the world better. So they'll avoid weapons of mass destruction. They don't invest in companies that do that. They don't invest in companies that make alcohol, tobacco, or other, those sin items, so to speak. They look for companies that have good environmental records. They look for companies that have good employee records, labor relationship records, those kinds of things. And the interesting thing is, when I look at the investment returns, I'm not giving up much of anything. I'm making a small difference in the world with the way that I invest. It's not costing me much, a little bit maybe, but not much. And so think about that. And even a couple of years ago, I had a dad who was involved in a trade, and including some union, and he was kind of involved in union leadership. And he called me up about a month after this class, and he said, I want to know more about that. Because he was interested in how the union was investing its monies. And could the union do something like that in order to make the world better? So think about how you invest your money. That's an important thing too. Being faithful is also learning to handle your money in a good and healthy way, so that you don't get yourself in trouble, so you don't get yourself underwater or in trouble. Okay, so now I'm going to get to homework. And here's what I want you to do. Remember how we talked about sharing and finding a passion for sharing? Remember we talked about you find that passion, what really turns you on, for my daughter at St. Jude's or the Warming Center type of thing. What is something that just really hits you? What is your passion? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to reflect on what it is. What needs in the world do you care deeply about? When you look around and you see a messed up world, which ones really matter to you? And where do you want to make a difference? Number 2, research and report. How would you go about making a difference? How would you go about making a difference through your sharing? And what organizations would you help to do that? Okay? So maybe you decide that I really care about hungry people, and I'm thinking, there's the food pantry, there's world hunger. Think about where that hits your passion most, and what would you do? Maybe, for example, don't everybody write this down. Maybe, for example, you'd say the food pantry. I could contribute money to the food pantry. Or I could go shopping and bring things to the food pantry. Or I could share some of my time. I could volunteer in the food pantry. So think about how your passion, what it is, what is your passion, what are the needs you care about, where do you want to make a difference, and how would you do that? And be solid. Research that a little bit. If you care about people, if you care about children with cancer, how could you make a difference in the world? What are some organizations that would enable you to do that? Okay? Be realistic. Be bold. Okay? How would you see yourself in the future working with that to make a difference in that? How could you share your money, your time? Don't just think about what I can do today, though you can do things today. But maybe it's an organization that down the road you say, when I'm an adult, I'm out of school, I'll volunteer some time there, or I will, maybe I'd like to work for them. Maybe there's an organization you say, I really want to be a part of their work. Just kind of think a little bit about where that might take you, and how would you share your abilities to do stuff. And finally, how does that show that you're a disciple of Jesus? How does that demonstrate that? Okay, share this with me in about 2 pages. I'd like to see it by February 24th. Last word, keep learning about money, the challenges and the opportunities. Share with your parents, especially that resource sheet. If they're not watching this, show them the resource sheet. Look those websites up. And finally, do not forget, you are a disciple of Jesus. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me. I know it's a longer video than other years or other months. A lot of stuff to go through. Glad we got through it. Take care of yourselves and be safe. And I'll see you on February 3rd at 6 o'clock on Zoom. Okay? Thanks a lot. Take care, guys. See ya.